Welcome to the Copilot Connection.
We're here to share with you all the news, insights, and capabilities of the Microsoft Copilot ecosystem from across the entire Microsoft stack. I'm Zoe Wilson. I'm a Senior Director at Avanade, a Regional Director and a Microsoft MVP. Kevin.
And hello, I'm Kevin McDonnell. I'm also a Solutions Architect at Avanade and an MVP and a Viva Explorer and a dedicated person who loves sharing into the community. This podcast, we're going to be releasing episodes as podcasts and also on YouTube. You can check us out there. And we're going to be bringing insights from across the community and Microsoft and all the different areas of Copilot. This isn't just about Microsoft 365. And I know we're going to talk about this in this episode, but there's 155 Copilots out there now as well. And we want to talk about the impact they can make to you and to your organization, what you need to do to prepare for them, and how you can start implementing them now, and even how you can extend them. But Zoe, should we get on with some news? And I think we had some news of our own to kick off with.
Yeah, of course. So this is our third episode, which means we've only had two that have been released already. And we were both delighted to realize that we had over 250 downloads already, which is just great. So thank you, everybody out there who's listening to us.
You're liking, what you're not liking, what you'd like to hear more of. But probably one of the things you do want to hear more of is a little bit of the news. And let's kick off once I can get my screen nicely shared and prepared. We've got some Power Platform news and the fact that Copilot in Power Apps is now generally available. So you can get going with your low-code journey about making things more effectively with Power Apps using that prompt-based way. I know... Oh, my brain's gone dead. April Dunham gave a lovely demo of spinning up a brand new app, similar to ones of those who are watching on video, showing there, basically creating a new table, building an app that wraps around that. If I think back to kind of creating that from high code, then you've got a lot of time to do that. Really, it's about accelerating that from there as well.
But yeah, so there's just in the Power Apps, there's some really interesting stats in this article as well. So makers who start building apps with Copilots are 64% more likely to be successful, 65% more satisfied in their overall experience. And Copilot is helping people build apps over data in Excel 80% faster, which is just phenomenal.
Absolutely. So yeah, stop building your apps in Excel. You don't need to. I do notice it doesn't quote where those numbers come from. So Copilot may have created those apps. I cannot say. I don't want to push that too far, but it fits with I think our own experience. The only thing I would say is talking to a few people that people think that being Copilot, they can just start using it and go, yeah, I'll just write and I want an app that does everything for me. Oh, it hasn't created this massive app that would have taken people months and months and months. Why isn't that? And that's why I think it's also worth, along with this, to do a shout out, and these will be in the show notes, to the Power Platform Prompt Library. This is part of what was the PMP Worlds. I think it's now the Microsoft 365 community stuff. I really should know that, and Gary Trinder's going to kill me for not remembering that, as well as Louise. But there's all these different prompts about how you can get started with those different elements. So whether that is Power Automate, Copilot, there's some Azure OpenAI, there's the Power Platform ones. So it's just giving some guidance, and you can contribute to this as well. So really worth keeping an eye on that as that expands, and use that to help you understand the styles that you can do your prompts in.
Yeah, it's really interesting as well, isn't it? Yeah, it's really interesting because like when we last spoke, we were talking about the general availability date for Microsoft 365 Copilot on the 1st of November. I actually thought that was going to be the next GA product that we get to talk about. And then here we have Power Apps just swooping in, getting Copilot in there first.
Absolutely. I think it's these Power Platform folks are always jumping in and stealing the glory. We saw a lot of that the weekend, but we'll come back to that a little bit later. Any other interesting news that caught your eye, Zoe?
Yes. So the other news that we've had this week is the Security Copilot early access program has been announced. So for those of you who've been following all of the Copilot news this year, back in March was when they announced both the security Copilot, which showed features in Sentinel, as well as the Microsoft 365 Copilot. And what Microsoft have announced this week is that the early access program for security Copilot is starting, as well as including those Sentinel features and capabilities. They're also bringing that generative AI experience into Microsoft Defender as well. So this is really exciting news. I talked to a lot of security people who are super interested in how this is going to help them drive security better, faster, with more accuracy. It's going to make it easier for them to investigate incidents and things like that. And again, we'll post a link to this article. There is a link at the bottom for expressing interest in the early access program. As with the M365 Copilot early access program, there will be that Microsoft are looking for. So what I'd expect is that they're looking for organizations who already have good use of Sentinel and Defender. But if you're interested in this, go read this article, get yourself signed up, and see if you can get into that preview program.
Absolutely agree, and I love some of the indications, because there's things I've thought about. I remember from years ago going through log files, SharePoint ones at the time, and trying to find where things had gone wrong. So to have Copilot help that hunting down for things will be huge. But also, you've always got the people on the ground hunting through this, so want a quick summary. And when your brain's in with the issue, trying to summarize that, trying to put it into a good language that you can put out there, that generative AI really to help you say, here's the problems, make this look nice for a manager that can then pass it on to other people. I think building that into it as well will be really powerful as well. So yeah, good to see those prompts are powerful.
Yeah.
Talking of prompts, there's our favourite Work Lab had a new article out as well, didn't they, Zoe?
Yeah. So I really like this one. This is 11 Microsoft leaders sharing some of their prompts that they use, not just in M365 Copilot. I think there's GitHub and some other Copilots in here. One of the things that I've learned over the last few weeks of working with both colleagues and clients who are in the Copilot Early Access program is, and this was a really interesting realization for me, Copilot isn't going to be one size fits all. And whilst there are lots of different ways that you can prompt, each of us will individually have to find the things that work for us, and the way that we bring Copilot into our workflow, because we've all developed really individual ways of working over the course of our career. So when you look at this article with all of these leaders, these are people who are highly experienced, at the top of their game. You can see the different types of things that they're asking, because these are the ways that they've learned how to prompt Copilot themselves. So it's really, really fascinating to see how people are using it.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And I think it's showing, there's lots of discussions taking place about who's going to use Copilot, and a lot of people thinking those execs are going to be the ones. It shouldn't just be that; it should be that range. But it's fascinating seeing where they're getting the real value from this, and the reality from it as well. Interesting seeing HR in there. That's a very brave thing to talk about.
Yeah, so that's a good one. If you just go back up to the one from Chris as well. So some of the things here, he's talking about what are Company X's strengths and weaknesses. One of the things I've been helping senior leaders with is how they bring Copilot into their workflow. And actually this scenario of almost being able to use Copilot internally to look at company information based on what you've got access to, but then being able to use Bing Chat Enterprise to do that same external research. That's a really powerful one. So I really like that concept of being able to change the scope of where you're looking to be able to get the full internal and external view of what you're trying to find out about.
Absolutely. It's that what to use when, isn't it? Other article that's caught my eye last night, and I'm intentionally scrolled slightly down on this one because it's that time of year when Microsoft's annual report comes out. Always a thrilling read. Let's put it like that. But actually digging into some of the details of this is important, or even going to that top level. What is the most important thing? And apologies for those listening. We'll describe this because if I scroll up, right at the top of this article is that lovely Copilot article, Copilot icon with empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. It's saying that this year the moment is about Copilot and AI, and I think all of us are seeing this, are seeing that conversation take place, but it really is bringing the reality of that, bringing on some of the examples of like Mercado Libre bringing GitHub Copilots, Mercedes Benz with their bringing Chat GPT, Lumen Technologies talking about deploying Microsoft 365 Copilot within there. All these are kind of established organizations making the power of Copilot happen for them. And this is just the start. And I think that's the message that Satya brings on about this new era of AI within there.
Yeah, I loved his opening as well, where he, he talked about the fact that Microsoft, throughout the history, have gone through these paradigm shifts where we've gone from the PC and server to the web and the internet to cloud and mobile, and this is the next evolution. But I actually think this is going to be one of the biggest and most exciting transitions as well.
I do, and it's things that people can prepare and get ready for, and should be going out and talking to people about this stuff. Which leads me nicely on, Zoe. You've been hanging around with Satya, kind of, haven't you, this week?
Kind of, yeah. So I was in the audience at his fireside chat with Claire Barkley at Microsoft Envision in London on Wednesday. You know what? I mean, this is the second big Microsoft event I've been to this year because I was at Build in May. I just love the kind of inspirational opening videos where all the lights go down and, they have like the little flashy Microsoft animations and the theme music and stuff. And when that happened on Wednesday morning, I just thought how nice it is to actually be back in person for these big Microsoft events.
Absolutely, and also, and we'll talk about South Coast Summit in a minute. It does also, unfortunately, mean you have to bring back these for those on camera. Yes, this is a negative COVID test, thankfully, but the reminder that it is still out there and keeping us entertained for the time being. But yeah, but you're right. It is good to see people, and I think. I know from the South Coast Summit, bumping into people, especially those you didn't quite expect to be there. And, we know a lot of the speakers and the people who are definitely going to be there, the partners, but it's those you're like, hello, how are you? I haven't seen you for a while. And hearing from that, I sadly couldn't go to Envision, but would have loved to kind of bump into people I've worked with previously as well. What was the kind of topics and what was the feeling around the hall? I'm guessing fairly AI related.
Yeah, people are what else is there at the moment? That's a fairly tongue-in-cheek comment, but yeah, they pretty much dominated across the board by the new era of AI, all of the different co-pilots. I had lots of interesting conversations with customers about M365 Copilot, that Copilot ecosystem, integrations, things like that. I did have a couple of people come over and ask me some quite detailed Fabric questions. Unfortunately, I wasn't quite able to answer those. Yeah. Well, yeah, I was trying to find the best person.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was AI is the hot topic. I do wonder if we'll see a little bit of AI burnout.
Yeah. Oh, you should copyright that now.
I think, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think from a Copilot perspective, the fact that the Copilots are starting to land and they're tangible and people can see real value for them, I think we'll see a lot of traction. But it's I do wonder if we'll get a bit fatigued with it in the coming year.
I think, yes, it will definitely happen. But I think by that point, it will just become, we won't have to shout about it being AI. It will just be something we do. We chat to Copilot, we chat to this, we chat to that. And it's just there. In the same way, Microsoft Search has had AI power in it for a while. And when it first came out, we talked about the AI magic. Now it's just search. It's just something that makes it better. And I think we will see that transition. And to me, that's success for it, is it that for it to still be there and still pick up on there, for these things to still be around. And You and I both know, as members of the Viva Explorers, there are times when things are at their peak and at their hype, and then something else comes along and shifts it out the way. But I know you noticed in Satch's letter as well some numbers about Vivo that was interesting. Not quite Copilot connection, but it sort of shows that transition from everyone talking about it, maybe not using it quite as much as everyone's talking about it, to 35 million people using Viva now, which was in that letter. So we will see that transition where you probably don't hear about it so much, but the reality is it's embedded in what people do and will be even more important as well.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, actually, because in the opening keynote, Judson Althoff said that there are already hundreds of thousands of people using Copilot. I suspect it's just over the 100,000. I can't see them having gone over 200,000 yet. But when you think that this product isn't even generally available yet, and this is, this is kind of the 300 licenses per early access organization, that's still a phenomenal amount of people already using something that's not even available.
Yeah, it's crazy times we live in as well. We've touched on this a bit. Shall we talk a little bit about South Coast Summit?
Yeah, South Coast Summit was fantastic. And actually, before we get into the experience and the stuff we talked about, I think first of all, let's just apologize for the fact that we did say we were planning to interview lots of people at South Coast Summit, and what happened was that we were too busy going to sessions, networking, and connecting with people, and actually struggled to pin down those who we wanted to interview. So we did get one. We've got a few people lined up for proper episodes, but unfortunately, we didn't get all of the interviews that we wanted. But
Yeah,
but the conversations we had, Kev, what were you talking to people about?
I think it was, being back in the room, everyone was asking us about co-pilots on there. I think if we look back at Donna Sarker's keynotes, that was all about Copilot. But the extension to that conversation was then about extending Copilot. And I had this chat with a few people that it's good to see that dev world back in the room. It feels like low code and Power Platform has been the dominant conversation, but it seems that this has re-enabled that world of doing dev, getting stuck into Azure, creating your ways of doing things. The strength of Teams apps that has come out from this, that foundation has been there for a while, but it's reinvigorating and people seeing that. So I think that infused quite a few people from there. It's always good. I love going to the conferences and chatting to the different vendors and partners that are there on the conference floor and seeing their buzz. Definitely a few conversations around what Copilots, certainly Microsoft 365 Copilot, will mean to the smaller organizations and the partners to be able to use that. There's a lot of buzz, a lot of excitement, but kind of feeling they're being a little bit left behind from it and wanting to know what's going to happen with that. And it'd be interesting to see how that hits when we come to GA and announcements that come through, any changes that pick up from that. But that was definitely a hot topic, chatting to people there. And I think the other one, it's always fascinating to see the number of different governance vendors out there, and that doesn't go away. It becomes more important, I think, now with AI. I think there is a big assumption. We were chatting with a friend last night, and the kind of assumption that AI is going to make everything better. You won't need to govern your material; it will do it for you, is just complete and utter rubbish. That's the polite word for it. So I think that was a topic of conversation quite a bit as well.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I noticed, and I can't remember who it was, but someone's commented on this since we all got home from Farnborough. It was really nice to see an expo hall that felt and looked like the type of expo hall you'd get at a big commercial conference, rather than the one that you'd get at a for free community hosted conference. So huge shout out to Aaron and Nathan for all of the hard work that they put into that. I think they really played a blinder.
Yeah, and Carl, mustn't forget Carl. I know he's easy to forget, but we should credit him as well.
Yeah, so when you talk to Carl, his view is that he basically corralled the speakers and did some of the admin in the background. But knowing how difficult it is to work with us, that's the hardest job.
Absolutely. No, it's funny you talk about it being a big conference, but it also had that community feel of chatting. There was lots of bringing other people into it and having those conversations, which I really enjoyed from it as well. Having been to a few, I'm not going to name them just in case I upset anyone there, but going through those where it's just about the vendors, and you go through and there's not really groups of people chatting. You don't get to meet anyone else there. It really felt like people were chatting. How are you? What are you finding from this? Happened a lot. People sat next to each other in sessions, talking to each other. It did have that, that big huggy feel, which is probably why we all had to do COVID tests as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the community that we're all part of is just so fantastic. I was chatting to Craig White, who used to work for me, and at the 2021 South Coast Summit, he drove up from Cornwall with another guy that worked with us as well. And he now works at ANS with Chris Huntingford and all of those lot. And he was saying to me on the Saturday night that he, in the 2 years since that first South Coast Summit, he just couldn't believe the kind of the welcome that the community had given him, and the fact that when he came the first time, I was the only person that he knew, and now he knows everybody, and everybody's so nice and friendly. And I think that's one of my favorite things about being in this community.
Absolutely agree that we're very welcoming and opening up to other people and having that chat. But anyway, this isn't a community focused podcast. This is the Copilot connection, and I think for me, and I actually started tingling just as I thought about saying this. There were two massive moments that felt there. One is being able to sit front row. I got on there nice and early for Donna Sarker's keynote, and she kind of warned us she might mention Zoe and I. What she hadn't said was she'd had a whole slide dedicated to the Copilot connection, which to have, what was it, about just under 1,000 people, to have an exec at Microsoft like Donna Sarker talking about this was absolutely spine tingling for me personally, and that was amazing from there. And then to follow that up, I think we had our session was about 11 o'clock, so kind of 2 or 3 sessions into the morning, to have a packed room, to have people queuing at the back to listen to our A to Z session about Copilots was incredible as well. And to have really engaged questions, people coming up to us afterwards was really magical. I'm going to stop crying soon.
So just on Donna in the keynote as well. I can't remember the word she had on the side, but I think it was something like "be part of the evolve," and it was that encouragement to everybody to be part of this evolving narrative around AI and the future of work and what it means. So I thought that was great. I know you're going to tell everybody what Donna's homework was in a minute as well, Kev. But for the session, I mean, every single seat was full. There were people sat on the floor. There was people stood at the back. That was just really fantastic. And one of the things that I really liked about it was, normally when me and you talk about stuff, because we come from that modern work background, it tends to be very much kind of M365 focused people. But this had people from across the entire tech stack. There were biz apps people, security people, that complete mix of audience members, which I just loved.
I agree. And you mentioned Donna's homework. Let's bring that up, because I loved these. And Donna was talking about getting people going, moving on with this, and it's encouraging us to look at what maturity level we are within that AI space. So that level 1 tried out a few AI tools, fairly sporadic and unspecific. Level 2 adopted an AI product and use it daily or weekly. Level 3 extended an AI product in their own data, meta prompting, fine tuning, RAG or plugins. Level 4 built our own AI product from an existing model, and level 5 built and trained a model. And we'll share this out in the show notes, because I know we've just talked about those for those listening. But Donna's challenge for us all was to move up a level, try something new. So maybe if you've tried out AI tools, to try and build them as a habit into your day-to-day flow of work. If you've just tried some of these tools, to start looking at maybe extending those, whether you're looking at that high code. It's interesting to use high code and not pro code as a new one on me. But building out that in high code, using the Power Platform, Power Virtual Agents. I know Chris Huntingford's been getting very excited about that with Copilot, and they had that in their workshop. Trying to extend that in some way as well, I think will be really interesting to push yourself a little bit farther and challenge yourself there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So where do you sit on this, Kevin? Which level are you at?
I'm between 4 and 5. So I kind of have built and trained a model, but it was a slightly cheating one and was just following guides. So I don't feel like I've truly done that. So I'd like to get into that world, but certainly have built products, have been extending things, working with the Teams AI library and bits on there, building dedicated ones with all these. Definitely feel like I've gone there, but would very much determined to try and go into that training a model side of things as well. I remember I think it was Ignite the Tour, and there was a lovely demo of taking photos of spanners and hammers and having them recognize it. And I think with cats as well to get it to recognize cats, but I couldn't find quite enough cats in the around. So
It's all right.
definitely,
I've got plenty of those.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
So this is where I get jealous because like the nature of the work that I do means that I don't actually get to get hands on with the tech anymore. So I'm very firmly in number 2. I've adopted AI. I use it multiple times every day, but I just haven't had the bandwidth to actually start extending or getting fancy with that. But it is something I'm super interested in understanding better because I think it's going to be so important as all of these things mature and we start to build extensions and stuff like that.
And I think about that AI burnout about, to me, the thing that will stop that is integration, extending it beyond closer to what people do is where we'll go there. But we should probably talk about our session because I know we don't have Al here. And we do that. Our one interview we managed was with Al, so we'll play that in a future episode. But our session at the South Coast Summit was the A to Z of Copilots. I think there was a certain amount of fears like, oh my gosh, that's going to be at least 26 slides with them talking through each one. But we decided to kind of group that together a little bit. And I think, Zoe, you came up with the lovely acronym on there.
Yeah. So we built the A to Z. And for many of the letters in the alphabet, we've got lots of different things that fall under that. But to try to actually be able to explain this in a way that makes sense, we came up with this EMBRACE acronym. So ethics, meetings, business case, readiness, apps, change, enablement, and extending. And we feel that that's a really good way to start to embrace the concept of co-pilots, to understand all of the different areas that you need to consider. And if we start with ethics, so ethics and responsible AI has to be such an important part of this. Even where you're using co-pilots that you're buying from Microsoft that are integrated in the platforms that you use every day, they're still a really important part of helping people understand how to use this. So helping with that etiquette, the etiquette of it, the etiquette of meetings, helping them understand that this isn't Terminator, this isn't Big Brother, this is something that can help them. One of the things that's really interesting that I'm starting to see, it's not actually on this slide, but I'm starting to see this in countries like Germany, is sentiment is a problem. The fact that you can ask the large language model, what is the sentiment of this meeting, for example, is a problem in some countries. And because of how LLMs work, it's not possible to turn that off. It's not like a feature you can just flick a switch. And Microsoft could, in theory, hard block you asking it in 5 different ways. But because of how language works, there's always a way to get around that. So the way to deal with that is through ethics, through responsible AI, through the guidance that you give to people.
Absolutely. I think that's key to there. And moving on to M, it's about meetings. And the reason we drew this one is just our experience so far is this is certainly for Microsoft 365 Copilot, where it's bringing so much more of it's the biggest use case that is resonating with people. Possibly because meetings are so often horrible and painful, and people haven't prepared properly, and you have to focus for hours when actually only it's a small bit that's relevant to you, and then you drift off and miss that bit that's relevant to you. By bringing Copilot in to help you with that, to help you pick up on those bits that are missed, to summarize later, to understand the different people, even if you're in a room and you remember afterwards who said, sorry, that someone said something, but you can't remember who because you want to go back to them later, you can refer back and ask Copilot to find you. You can bring together the notes that you make with the notes that are taken in the meeting, or you can just not take notes and rely on that transcript to provide you with the information, so you're not having to capture everything that's said, because you have that strength, making sure you're more present, and even if you're not physically in the room, you're metaphorically in the room with it. And I think this is definitely the area that gets most people excited and see the value from it straight away, which takes us on to value and business case. Sorry.
Yeah, so I'm just going to add one comment on meetings before we talk about business case. One of the things that I've noticed when using Copilot is, and I know Al feels strongly about this as well, if you don't have an agenda on the meeting, it becomes impossible to use Copilot to help you prepare for the meeting. So if I've got a meeting with you, Kevin, and I say, prepare me for my upcoming meeting with Kevin, and that meeting is just a Teams invite, the Copilot's like, well, I don't know what to do. I've got no information. Here's something that might be relevant that's completely not relevant. So when we think about etiquette, when we think about meetings, making sure that we actually include things like agendas and pre-reads and stuff like that, it's the right thing to do anyway. And I've been banging on about this for ages, but actually in the context of Copilot, it's such an important prereq to be able to use Copilot for that pre-meeting work. So yeah, I'll get off my soapbox now and we'll talk about business cases. This was interesting in the session, wasn't it? Because there was someone in the audience who actually asked us about. He said you've got cost missing off this slide, and we do have cost missing, but value is on here.
License.
Yeah, so licensing and cost are both missing, but value is on here, and from an M365 perspective, one of the biggest conversations I'm having at the moment is around the value. It's around the business case, because it's not cheap. It's a premium add-on license. And when organizations have got lots and lots of people, that cost, that $30 per user per month list price, soon adds up very quickly. So understanding the business case, understanding who will benefit from a Copilot license, understanding the cost to roll that out becomes really important, and making sure that people actually adopt and use it is so important, because this isn't like an E5 deployment where you can give someone a license, and as long as you've configured the security stuff, you feel like you're getting the value, and it doesn't matter if they're not using the rest of it. If you give someone this license, it is imperative that they actually know how to use it, and that they're able to build that Copilot muscle and use it to change the way that they work.
Doesn't matter if they're using the rest of it. We are going to get deluged with security people at this point. You realize?
Well, no, but that's the truth, isn't it? Like if you look at the you get some organizations who buy E5 because they want the security features, and then because they're not focusing on change enablement and transformation,
telephony, may not use Power BI.
Power BI, they're leaving a lot of value on the table. But with Copilot being a premium add-on, that's not optional. So from an M365 Copilot perspective, that business case is super important. With some of the other Copilots, it's a bit of a different story, because depending on what it is, the licenses, the features may not be included in licenses you've already got.
But I'm going to disagree slightly, and this kind of comes back to, the cost of Copilot is not just the licenses. You've got to, and I know we'll talk about this in change, but you've got to support people with that. You've got to have people trained up to understand it and support the ongoing usage. You've got to make sure that they, we've already talked about the importance of prompts with Power Platform. So even if you're just turning on, let's say, Dynamics or even Power Platform, we talked about there the general availability. You turn that on and make that available, people are going to start asking questions. They may waste time by trying to use it when it's not effective for them. So making sure they understand the effectiveness, and these things all cost. So I think there's still, yes, a lesser thing, but there's still a value of understanding what is the value that this is going to bring by enabling that as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that Power Platform one is a really good one. And this kind of moves us on into readiness. So with Power Platform, the Copilot features will basically make it easier for people to build stuff. So it will make it easier for people to write their own automations or speak their own automations using natural language. They can build apps using natural language, going from data in spreadsheets and things like that, which is great. It will allow people to solve their own problems. But if you do that, you don't have any governance in place, you are in for a world of pain. So from a power plat perspective, things like having the center of excellence, do you even have basic governance and processes and policies and dev environments, application lifecycle management? What is the structure, the guidance, that change enablement support you're giving for people? Because if you don't have some of those processes in place, then from a governance perspective, this proliferation of apps is about to go through the roof.
I love the way you paused there, because you suddenly went to the G on the screen and realized we haven't got governance on there either. Maybe that's one we should add in. The other
Yeah.
point I was going to make, it was lovely speaking to a few people who've been over at the Power Platform conference in Vegas recently, and Aaron Rendell did his session on governance for Power Platform and environments, and he had a standing room only moment on there. And it shows that people realize this is an issue. We're a few years down in that Power Platform route, especially as you're building out different environments. People know this can be a problem and is a problem in many places. So knowing how to manage it is absolutely key.
Yeah,
Moving on the
100%.
letters. Moving on the letters, apps. This is kind of an easy one, because all I can do is chat here through the different apps that are available. We're kind of thinking more around things like Power Platform, Outlook, OneNote, all sorts of different apps involved. Even Graph we can bring into this, but also bringing your own apps into this as well. And I think the point here, and I can't remember if it's you or Al who made this, Copilot is context aware. Yes, there's a kind of common large language model behind a lot of these different areas, but it needs to know where you are as to what you're trying to achieve, to try and help you achieve the right thing. If you're in Word, you're going to be creating a document. If you're in PowerPoint, you're going to be creating a presentation from in there, and making sure that it understands that and brings things to you that are relevant to that. So the reason we call out apps is thinking about those different areas that you would use things within there, and thinking about where you might want to bring those things together. And I certainly seeing that's one thing that I think will improve over the future, is how do different things talk to each other more effectively while having suitable barriers. I think that is an evolution we'll start to see improve across the Copilots over time. So maybe in your presentation you're talking about code, you want to delve into a bit of that GitHub Copilot to kind of bring that code for you, but you don't want to, when you're creating a deck about snakes, suddenly have some Python code appear from there. So getting that context will be really important as well.
I don't know. I think some Python code in a deck about snakes could it could bring a bit of humor.
It is true.
So then we've got the next one, which is change, and the change enablement, the adoption, the support that people will need to start to build that Copilot muscle. I know I keep saying that a lot, but I think it's really important that people realize this is something that needs to actively be built and grow and worked and practiced. It cannot be understated. This isn't just like a tech adoption project. This isn't just a case of like picking up a new tool. This is about learning how to think and work in a different way, to break the habits that you've developed over an entire lifetime of working. And that change
25
approach.
years, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, more than 2 decades of professional career. Like, Yeah,
Do you know, I was pretending we were 25. I just realized, no, I made it sound like we've been working for that long, which is true, and that's even more depressing. Sorry about that.
But yeah, the change piece is key. Even even where you've got people who've got a good level of technical knowledge and a great degree of enthusiasm for these, what I've seen is that there's a steeper learning curve than expected to get the various
Yeah.
co-pilots to do what you want them to do. And part of it comes to that context point that you made, Kev. You might know how to prompt, but actually, do you know how to prompt for that specific app or the specific thing that you're trying to do?
Yeah. And they've been tuned to work best in those apps for that. And that kind of takes me on to that extending. If things aren't doing what you want them to do, I love I don't know. I was going to say with all the co-pilots, I don't know if that's necessarily the case. That might be something we can explore in the future. But certainly with Microsoft 365 and many of them, it's about extending. It's being able to connect not just to the data that's in Microsoft 365, but connecting outside of that as well. It's about connecting into the services and building in those plugins to work with other systems, such as Jira. Being able to raise tickets there, raise tickets into ServiceNow and Workday, or your own applications. But also then about building your custom co-pilots. I still love that. Oh, and I've still forgotten his name. Is it Rob Scott, who did the Builds keynote and created his own podcast co-pilot? So he would just upload his recording of the podcast. It would automatically generate a transcript. It would look at the guest space of that. It would look up the specializations of them and give them a summary, build up the description automatically by summarizing that, build a title for the podcast, even generate an image for it. So when it went out in the feeds, it was using DALL-E to generate a relevant image and then publish that, all just by dropping a file in. And it's those kind of things that embrace that element of OpenAI and Azure OpenAI and these large language models that will allow people to be automating those custom ones that are things we haven't thought of yet that I'm really excited about. I love what's happening out the box, but it's when people take it beyond that that really the magic continues to go. And that's what's going to keep this going on and on as we discover new ways to use these LLMs.
Yeah, I think it's super interesting. And in that modern work area that we both work, for the last few years, we've been talking about in the flow of work and reducing context switching and bringing everything into Teams as that experience platform. And I still think that's relevant. But for me, what Copilot will do is basically put that on steroids, because
Yeah.
This isn't just about kind of integrating things into Teams as another app that you click on in Teams. This is about giving you that kind of one natural language interface where you can reach out into all of these different systems and services, whether that's to search for things or whether it's to do things, take action, and that's just super, super interesting and exciting for me.
Yeah. So I think what we loved about this A to Z, this isn't the end. We've when we spoke through in the session, we remembered extra things. Even talking through now, there's extra things we can add to this. But we hope by going through this, it's the different areas that you should be thinking about as you go through your Copilot journey. And I think it's fair to say, Zoe, we'll probably be doing this session again somewhere soon.
Yeah,
So we
100%.
haven't got it planned yet, but I really enjoyed doing it, and I the interest that we had in it, and we did do a demo of Microsoft 365 Copilot at the end. Al used his environment to do that, and I loved the reaction to Whiteboard, being able to put your notes and automatically categorize those. There was a few kind of. I always love it when you have those sessions. People start scribbling. It's like, right, that's got people's interest. Excellent.
Yeah. No, it was fantastic. And yeah, we'll definitely do this session again. I think just if you look at the speed at which things are changing, though, I can see us having to update this one continuously. And talking of Whiteboard Copilot, do we want to talk about the quiz on Saturday night? So
yes. I think
yeah.
we shouldn't talk about why we were quite so sober, but yes, we definitely should, Zoe, talk about how there is extra trophies behind you now.
Yeah. So at the UK Summit events, the Saturday night is always the charity pub quiz. We've now won 3 years in a row with my team, and this year it was Copilot and Chill. And I just wanted to give Al Erdley a huge shout out because he came dressed as Whiteboard Copilot, which was just absolutely fantastic.
That was very and he was dressed with all the post-it notes stuck to the front of him, which is hysterical. And funnily enough, I've had behind me for all this week my outfit, the Viva Goals Copilot, with lots of Liverpool's top goal scorers stuck on the back, and not one person has mentioned it. So I am waiting for someone to ask why I have a random outfit on the back of my door, but hasn't happened yet.
Brilliant. So I also loved Mike Hartley with his Dynamics Clippy outfit as well. I thought that one was fantastic.
Yes, that we had lots of fun to be had with that as well. And I know we talked a little bit at the end, but I think we'll be encouraging more fancy dress for the other teams as well. I know there were a few squirrels, and we had some lovely Windows 95 t-shirts, which did make me smile. But more and some great pirates. I mustn't forget the pirates on there as well.
Yeah. Well, to be nice for more teams to come out and challenge us, really, wouldn't it? You know, we've won 3 times. Vivian Voss, her team gave us an absolutely fantastic run for our money. They were actually leading for most of the quiz this year. So Vivian and team, huge well done. But yeah, more people get signed up and come and challenge us next year.
Absolutely. We should probably wrap up about now. We do have big things planned for more episodes coming up, and I'd say, what's the date? 20th of October today as we record this, which means we're I've got to do maths. What's that? 11 days away from GA for M365 Copilots, just under a month away from Ignite. And I'm sure we're going to see lots of AI and Copilot news. So we'll be, and there's also GitHub Universe coming up as well. I should have the dates for that handy, which I don't, but I know that's coming up in November. So there's going to be a huge amount of news, and we're going to bring as many people as possible into that as well. So keep an eye. And again, just to say, if you want to come and speak, please check on the website. There's a lovely link there to come and speak to us.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're doing anything with Copilot, if you're thinking about it, if you're hands-on with it, if you've got an opinion about Copilot, come and you want to come and speak to us, let us know. Or if there's anybody you want to hear from as well, if you'd like us to bring on a guest where you'd really like to get their opinion on Copilot, just let one of us know.
Absolutely. And if you want to hear more from us, please subscribe. Go on LinkedIn, Twitter, Twitter, X, we're on there. You can subscribe and get notifications about episodes. We're up on YouTube. You can follow us on all your favorite podcast providers, whether you're on Spotify, Apple. I was going to say the Google one, but I know that's disappearing. So I think it's YouTube podcasts coming up from there. We're on all of those. If you don't find us anywhere, let us know and we'll find a way to get it on there. But please subscribe, tell your friends, give us some rating, because that always helps on there. Tell your mum. My mum she actually said she listened to the last episode and it helped her get to sleep. So you can tell your family. It all helps our stats. It's good on there as well. So you can either be interested in this or just use it to kind of lull yourself into sleep. We don't mind. We love the numbers.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for tuning into the Copilot Connection, and we look forward to talking more.
Thank you very much.